You are a lot more than you think you are. You have somebody inside of you that's waiting to surface. If you're in a career or some type of job that's not fulfilling you, the time is now to make the shift, right? Nobody's promised tomorrow. Like, you want to put things off, and then you're gonna be 80 years old living with regret. Make the leap. Just get started. You gotta make it bigger than you. Like I tell people when they come into the gym, all right, you want to lose 10 pounds. Why? It's like, who can benefit from you losing 10 pounds? Right? Because now it's not just about me and getting into a certain size pants or that little black dress. It's who can be inspired by your journey. So that way, when your alarm goes off at 5 a.m, you get out of bed. Because people will quit on themselves in a second, but people will show up for others. So you got to have a purpose. It's not an option. You just have to keep moving forward. And I always use the GPS theory, right? You have your starting point, you have your destination. It doesn't matter what happens along the way. If your road is closed, it's going to reroute you. If you miss a turn, it's going to reroute you. And so you always circle back to what the vision is.
An exploration of trauma, transformation, and triumph. Your healing starts here.
We are back with another episode of Through the Trauma podcast. I am Amber, and today I have with me a motivational speaker. He is super inspirational among so many people because he's sharing his mission to just help others conquer self-doubt and embrace their struggles. He is the host of Shut Up and Grind, and he's interviewed over 300 guests who have also defied the odds and have their own story. He has inspired audiences around the world to prioritize themselves and unlock their potential. This is Mr. Robert Foster. Robert, I'm so happy to have you with us today.
How we doing? Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I was just telling you before we jumped on here, super excited to have you on because I love motivational stuff and I love getting people on here that can share that with my audience because it's so needed in the world that we're in today. I know that you went through some stuff yourself that's kind of pushed you into this place that you're in today. So why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So to fully understand me, you got to understand my background, like my upbringing. So I'm the youngest of 7, and we were all athletes, mainly track and field and basketball were probably our main sports. So I spent probably the first 13 years of my life being so-and-so's little brother. And I couldn't stand it, right? So for whatever reason, my brothers were like 6 feet tall, muscular. As a freshman in high school, I was 5'4", 88 pounds, right? So I'm like, what is wrong with me? And so what started the journey of me becoming this version of me is as that freshman, as that short, skinny freshman, track and field starts, and I asked for the record book. And the coach did one of these. Why do you want the record? And I said, because I'm going to break the high jump record. And again, he gave me the up and down look. And he's like, you don't have what it takes to be a high jumper. He's like, why don't you try hurdling? I was like, no, I want a high jump because like my sister was a high jumper and it just looked really fun. And as competitive as I am, like I wanted to forge my own path because I was always Ramon's little brother, your best little brother. And so I remember he finally gave me the record book and I highlighted that high jump record. And we're going to fast forward. So that freshman year really wasn't that good because again, I was short and scrawny. But the work ethic was there. Like I was determined, not even to prove him wrong. I wanted to prove me right, that I have what it takes to do it. So I just became a student of the sport and just started like eventually I'm going to grow. I don't think I'm going to stay 5'4" for the rest of my life. So once my genetics caught up with my drive, then I truly became unstoppable. Like I went from learning to able to compete to won a lot to becoming the hunted. Like everybody was gunning for me my senior year. And so junior year, I tied the record. Senior year, I broke the record. And I held the record for 21 years, along with the Southern Division triple jump record for 24 years. And then I left with the pentathlon record as well. I share that story not to flex, but to let people know, like the crux of majority of my stories is don't let anybody else try to clip your wings.
That's where it's at right there, because I think that so many times, especially with young people, we're looking up to certain people and they define where we're going. They define their words have such power over us. And it's like this as an adult too, but I think the youth really absorb that. So even as a parent myself who has, an athlete, my son is an athlete, my daughter is an athlete, I have to be really careful what I speak over them because as a parent, as a coach, as a teacher, anyone in that authoritative position can speak life or speak death over someone. Do you work with youth?
Yeah, I coach high school track and field.
Okay, so what do you think, what encouragement, I guess, would you have for someone who maybe has someone that they can speak over?
So my main message to the young kids is to show up, because like the freshmen and the sophomores now, those were the kids in elementary school during COVID. So we're working with the product of the distancing, and you can't go to your friend's house, and you can't have a birthday party, and all this other stuff. So a lot of these kids put themselves into a shell, and I'm trying to help them break out of that shell. For example, one of my distance runners, he was seated 12th in the indoor track New England's. I walked over to him. All I did was I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, "You're seated 12th. Go fix it." That was the whole speech. Just go fix it. Like a lot of times the kids are waiting to be led. And I'm trying to help them to look inside. Like you don't need anything from me. It's already in there. You just have to let it out. Like I say every practice, let that dog out. Let that dog out. Like, let that dog out. And then one of the kids is like, "Coach, why do you always say let that dog out? Like, why not a tiger or a lion or whatever?" I said, because dogs will fight anything, absolutely anything. You can see the smallest chihuahua, but he thinks he's the biggest dog in the room, right?
Yeah.
So once the kids realize that and they unlock that inner power, then they can really get on the path to what they want to do and not what their guidance counselor says they should do or what the parents say they should do. They got to follow what they want to do inside. I spent 20 years in the restaurant industry. I learned a lot throughout that period, but I should have just jumped in, but I doubted myself. And that's why I wrote my book, which is also titled Shut Up and Grind, about overcoming self-doubt. So I stayed in that industry probably 10 years longer than I should have because I'm a college dropout. And what are you told? If you don't have a college degree, you're going to be flipping burgers or pumping gas. Like that's what I heard growing up in the 80s and in early 90s. And so I let that get into my head. And little did I know, through managing restaurants, I learned a whole lot of skills that I was able to carry with me when I moved over to fitness. And so letting those young kids know, if you want to become a singer, work on it. Don't let the person that said you don't have a good enough voice to sing, that's not your business what other people think of you. Because these kids nowadays, especially with social media, everything they see and hear, they take it to heart.
Yeah, we're in a very interesting time for sure, especially with among youth growing up in today's day and age. And I think it's great to have someone encouraging them that you can do these things because the mind is really powerful. It's more powerful than I think we give it credit a lot of times, that the things we actually can do with our mind, if we allow it to take on, like to embody its full potential, which I don't think we ever can embody the full potential. Having that encouragement says a lot. How long have you done this?
Off and on since 1996. Off and on. Like there are some gaps in there, depending on my management schedule at the time. But I got back into it in 2023. So I coach indoor and outdoor, boys and girls. But I have a quick story to highlight what you just said about the power of the mind. My main area of expertise in track and field is the sprints and the jumps. So the throws, I don't know much about the throws because I didn't do it. It's like you can study. Like now I know enough where I can teach someone how to do it. But when you've done the sport, it's completely different. So I was coaching at one of the high schools, and one of our throwers, she's throwing about the same almost every meet. So we're in practice. I was like, "How far do you want to throw the shot?" She's like 35 feet. I said, "Okay, where is it?" And she just looks at me with this blank stare. Like, "What do you mean? Like, how far is 35 feet?" She's like, "I'm not sure." I said, "All right, get a tape measure. Let's measure it out." So we measured it out, and I put a cone out there. And all I said, hit the cone. Right? I gave her a target. It's like right now, you're just blindly throwing. She ended up throwing 38 feet. She improved 5 feet in the shot put. Like that's huge. That's a huge PR. And just last season, my two hammer throwers. So one of the boys, he came into the season throwing 172 feet. He ended the season 211. One of the girls came in throwing 131. She ended up throwing 167. And I taught them absolutely nothing about the hammer throw. It was just about believing in themselves. And well, being a fitness coach helps, but we work out before every practice.
Uh-huh.
Whereas before they would just show up, they'd warm up, and then they would just go throw. It's like, so I got them physically stronger, mentally stronger, and they PR'd by over 30 feet.
Yeah. It's crazy what happens. I just was having a conversation just this morning in the gym with someone who he was telling me about a friend of ours that was in the gym the other day. And he's like, I was encouraging her to like, if you can lift that, you can lift this. And she's like, no, I can't lift that. He's like, no, you can. And he said, then she lifted it like it was nothing. And I've seen this, it being in fitness myself, like I've seen this happen again and again. And it's like our mind is our biggest limitation. That's where most of the limitation lies. So I'm curious, like you've done this for a little while, like what are the results that you've seen? Obviously, you just told us two stories there of some kids that have made, this is kind of on a short term, but on a long term basis, have you seen these kids, their mindset grow to the extent of like what they've accomplished once they've grown up and got a little more established in the world?
God, I've seen countless stories. So a young man that I'm currently working with, he's a junior in high school. I've been working with him since his freshman season. So in the triple jump, when he started with me, he was doing right around 35 feet. And within just maybe 2 months, I want to say, he jumped 41.9, a 6-foot increase. And part of it was, I kept telling him, I said, being a champion is an attitude, right? It's an attitude. There are people who are physically gifted that don't have the attitude. Like one of my high jumpers from last year, he was a senior when I got him. So he had 3 years of bad habits, and it's really hard to peel that away. But he was physically gifted, but he anytime once the bar got to 510, he just had a mental breakdown. And there was nothing I could do for him. Like you have to bring it out yourself. And that's the number one message to give the kids is they want to attach their success to something or someone else. But the success has to come from within you. So with the same kid who triple jumped 41.9, we were in a meet. I'm coming over, his head's down, he's kind of slumped. And I was like, what's going on? He's like, I'm jumping like crap. And I was like, what did I tell you winning is? He's like, attitude. I'm like, yeah, how is yours right now? And he's like, it's not good. All right. I said, go back to the basics, take a step back, right? Get up on there, visualize and attack. And so his very next jump was like 38 and change. And then his next jump was 39 and change. And then the next meet was when he hit the 41.9. All from that little shift. Like just because you have one jump, you don't want to shoot yourself for the other 5, right? You had one bad jump. But even adults have a problem. Like people will come into the gym 7:00 in the morning talking about, well, this day is gone to hell already. I'm like, the sun barely came up and you're defeating the entire day because you had a tough morning.
I was reading the book. I'll have to put it in the show notes now because I can't remember the name of the book, but where it was the trainer that used to train Michael Jordan. And he said that Michael Jordan.
Over.
Yes. Yeah. And he said that Michael Jordan would go in to the other locker room before the games and would basically like throw everybody off before the game. And I was like, it's kind of a below the belt tactic, but it's also genius because that shows how much you can get into someone's head, good or bad. So I'm just curious, once a player does something like the girl that you were talking about that she threw further than she hit a new PR. Once they do that, then that builds confidence, right? So then you can do it again and again. How important do you think the role of confidence is?
It's huge, but people are confident in the things that they're proficient in. It's like confidence isn't something that you get. Like I'm a seasoned speaker on what I know. If you start asking me stuff about biophysics, you're gonna think, oh God, this guy can't speak at all. It's like I'm confident. It comes with proficiency. So again, going back to the thrower, it's like right now you're not expanding your competency in this event. I said, so we have to expand it. You need a new target. Like I tell the kids, if you want to do a personal best, you have to do something you've never done. Right? Like that's the only way you're going to get a personal best. You have to do something you've never done. Instead, how you do that is you have to first believe you can do it. Right? If
Right.
you believe you can do it, then confidence isn't a factor anymore, right? So confidence is something people build through repetition. Like when I'm training other speakers, they're like, "Oh, I'm so afraid of public speaking." I'm like, "No, you're not. You're afraid of judgment. You're afraid of judgment because you don't speak enough. You're not proficient enough in your stories. That's why I can get up here and with you and speak about my life. Like these are things that I've been through. I know what parts of my life to share for whichever question you're asking me. And having those stories dialed in, that's why you're confident, because you've built proficiency.
Confidence is a strange thing for me because confidence is one of these things. It's like if you don't have it, you almost have to fake it a little bit to get it. But then you see a little bit of success. And again, what you're saying is through repetition, you're doing this thing again and again and again. You see some success, then it builds more confidence. And then to get to the next level, it's almost like you have to fake it a little bit more. And then but it's like a revolving door kind of. But I do think confidence it's one of those things that's super important to have, but it's also super important to build. And I love that you said like through repetition, because that's how you get better at anything is by doing the repetition. Say that someone's listening to this episode that's just a regular person. Like what advice would you have to them that maybe they're struggling in the same type of mindset issues in any other thing?
You got to make it bigger than you. Like I tell people when they come into the gym, all right, you want to lose 10 pounds. Why? It's like, who can benefit from you losing 10 pounds? Right? Because now it's not just about me and getting into a certain size pants or that little black dress. It's who can be inspired by your journey. So that way, when your alarm goes off at 5 a.m, you get out of bed, because people will quit on themselves in a second, but people will show up for others. So you got to have a purpose. Like, just to give you a glimpse into my day today, right? Alarm goes off at 4:30 in the morning. My alarm is a video of me reminding me of my goals. That's what I wake up to. So when it goes off at 4:30, there's no snooze isn't even enabled on my phone. So it's like it goes up and me get up. You got goals, you got dreams, you got your vision. People are dependent on you. Let's go. Like that's what I wake up to. I teach 4 fitness classes, had a personal training session, had my podcast right before this one. Now I'm on with you. I'm going to leave here, drive to the school, coach track and field. So we have two locations here. So I'm going to go to the other location for 2 PT sessions, and I'll probably get home around 6:30 tonight. So it's like, that's a nice 14-hour day, but I show up. Everything I do inspires other people. So it's not about me. Like when you're in your purpose, you don't get tired. It's like I'll be tired when I get home. But when you're in that purpose, that's where action follows. Like if I'm just doing this to hear myself talk, like I said earlier, people will quit on themselves in a second. But I'm here to connect with you and to inspire your audience.
And there you go. You just dropped the mic with that one. Because it's so true. It's so true. It's easy to quit, but when you have a driving purpose, it's a little bit harder. If you've got kids or you're doing something for your health because your health is failing, or you're doing something because you got someone counting on you, or you're trying to make an impact, that's huge. And I can definitely relate to that. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. So really what I'm hearing you say is find your purpose, find your why, that you're doing what you're doing, and you'll be a lot more likely to stick to your goals and your things that you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like going back to the knee injury, and it was a bad knee injury. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely bad. When I first looked down and saw that my kneecap wasn't where it's supposed to be, right? It was about 3 inches up my quad. Two of my 4 quad muscles had complete atrophy. Like they could not fire on their own. But I get to the hospital and the ER doctor takes off the brace and he's like, you're never going to run or jump again. Like he didn't touch it. He didn't try to like do anything. Just took off the brace and just determined my outcome. And I took it to heart at first because I have 5 kids. At the time, they were 10, 7, 2, and I had twins who are 4 months old. So I'm like, I went down that rabbit hole. It's like, I am human, So at first I went down that rabbit hole of, I'm not going to be able to play basketball with my boys, with all of them really. We're not going to be able to, I just went down that negative pigeonhole. But then guess what happened? Editor Rob showed up and he was like, this guy doesn't know us. Right? He doesn't know. Like, we didn't even have the surgery yet. How are you going to tell me how I'm going to respond from this when we didn't even do the surgery? And so I decided in that moment, I don't accept that. Like, I absolutely do not accept that. I said, I will make a full recovery. And granted, the first week after surgery, it hurt. It hurt real bad. And so I went home with a walker and crutches. We had to have a babysitter come to the house for the 3 little kids and me, grown man. And I had to ask the babysitter to make me lunch. That's how bad it was. But just every day I did more than what was required. It's like they gave me minimum things to do, but they didn't give me maximums. So I did everything I could tenfold. And people were like, "Are you doing too much?" And like, they didn't tell me I couldn't overdo it. They just said, "Do at least this." So, for example, like I said, I had atrophy in my 2 quads, so I had to do electric stim. They said minimum 3 hours a day. If I wasn't up and moving around, that thing was shocking me all day long. And I'm sitting there just trying to get it to fire. It took a few months, but then it finally fired. So we were probably about 4 to 5 months later, because originally they said I was going to rehab for 18 months. I got released in 4.5. And so I was at the track with the kids. I was like, let me see if I can get both feet off the ground. And so I was like, if something happened, hey, well, at least I tried. So it's like, because too many times people in life, they get held back because they never take the leap. So it's like sometimes you have to stare stupid right in the face to get to where you want to be. So it's like, you know what? Let me try. And I tried. So granted, I looked like a newborn giraffe, but I ran. And it was in that moment where it solidified that I'm going to make a full comeback.
So how important do you think your mindset was? Like, you talked about how you made this shift from going down this negative rabbit hole of like, woe is me, but then you made the decision, you made a choice to not go down that rabbit hole. And you said, I'm going to focus on the positive and I'm going to make a comeback and I'm going to be the competitor and do all the things that they said I can't do. And you made a choice in that moment to do more than what you were told. How much do you think, obviously the physical part of like the exercises and the things that you were doing made an impact, but how much do you think your mindset, just that shift in positivity, made in your healing?
There's a difference between if and when. Right? The people that say if doubt that it can happen. And I would just, when I start driving, when I get back to work, when I run again, when I compete again. And just like, I never wavered from that outside of that first week. So now that was my first of 7 surgeries. So for the first one, I did exactly what they told me. And so I go back to the doctor for a follow up and he's like, you can start putting pressure on that knee now. I was like, okay. So, I have the crutches. I'm like, all right, that feels pretty good. So I dropped one crutch. I'm like, that still feels pretty good. And then I dropped the other crutch and then never touched the crutches again. I was like, I could have done this 2 weeks ago, So like, I know the doctors have to err on the side of caution, and I'm not telling people to not listen to your doctor. But so the next surgery was my shoulder. That one I took matters into my own hands because they were like completely immobilize it for 6 weeks. I'm like, I am not doing that. Because I'm just telling you up front, I'm not doing that. And like, I found my own thresholds. So it's like, oh, that hurts. All right, so we'll move here. And I just found, and then just over time, it just started getting better and better. So I go for my first follow up and she's like lifting it. I'm like, keep going. Like, keep up, push harder. You can push harder. Keep going. I got all the way up. And she's like, we never see that this soon. I said, because I didn't listen to y'all. Like, I took matters into my own, like, it's my body. It's like, I know my body. If something hurts me, I'm not stupid enough to keep doing it. So I just found the thresholds. And then when I got back into the gym, what I did do, I found if I hold my shirt, right, it keeps the shoulder from moving. So I got back into the gym almost immediately and just did what I could without stressing the shoulder. So again, going back to the difference between if and when, like, that surgery was the day before Thanksgiving. I signed up for a Spartan race the end of April. And again, the surgeon was like, that might be pushing. I said, good.
You remind me of David Goggins, where he's like, I'm just going to do it. But I do think too, like, I will say this personally, I've often said this too, that someone who has been in fitness for a long time, like, we know how our body is supposed to feel. I know when something hurts, that is, I know the difference between like a muscle pain of like burning versus a muscle pain of like it's getting ready to tear.
Yeah.
While I totally agree with what you're saying, like I think that we all know our bodies, like we have to use that kind of that intuition of I know what I can push myself to. If you don't know your body or if you're not used to how those things feel, just take a caveat that sometimes, you may want to err on the side of safety. But I do totally agree with what you're saying too, because I think that doctors do tell, because they don't want to be responsible for you hurting yourself. So they're like, don't do this. But I never listen when I have surgery either. Like I've had surgeries and I did the same thing because I've often prided myself on, I've been involved in fitness for 20 plus years. I know what my body feels like and I know what I can push myself to. But sometimes, you do have to listen to your body. Don't listen to the doctors, but listen to your body.
For a while there, I was doing anywhere from 15 to 20 obstacle races a year. But now, like, I've had 3 knee surgeries now. Well, obviously the big one, and then just a scope on each, and a partial meniscus removal on my right side. I've decreased the number that I'm doing. Quick story. I go to physical therapy because my right knee swelled up a little. So I'm in physical therapy. So she's like, all right, sounds like you need to rest and you need to. I said, well, let me stop you right there. I said, in 10 days, I have 3 Spartan races. And she's like, okay. She's like, so we're going to get you ready for that. And then we'll treat you afterwards. I said, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah. And I think that's part of being an athlete too, because a lot of times as an athlete, it's like, we don't like limitations being put on us. But the beautiful thing about like being an athlete, the beautiful thing about fitness that I've found is that it translates, even though it's not identically, like it doesn't identically translate into life, but the principles translate into your life. I've learned so much about life through fitness. It's been astounding, really. So talk to us a little bit about resilience, because obviously going through all these knee surgeries and then teaching kids the power of being resilient, like where does that fit in and what advice do you have to someone to build resilience?
Yeah, to piggyback off of what you just said first, and then I'll answer that, is, yeah, you are absolutely right. So when I first started my podcast, well, this was years ago. I had a show called Shut Up and Exercise. And I found the principles that it takes for us to get people to, whether it's lose weight, run faster, build muscle, there's a process, right? You got to start with a self-assessment, right? You got to get their beginning stats. And then you got to figure out the long-term goal. It's like, a year from now, how do you want to look and feel? And then from there, you got to assess the inner circle. It's like, who is around you that can derail you, right? Then from there, you got to cast the vision. And that's different from just simply where do you want to be. Now you want to get into the emotions of it. And then from there, you set your goal, your action plan. And then from there, you tweak it as needed, but then you just persevere until you get there. And then when you get there, you got to set a new goal or get something on the calendar that you're working towards so you don't relapse. And and I found when I started interviewing people, I was like, everybody has a story about something. And those stories start the same way. Like when you wanted to start your podcast, right? You got, all right, what do I want to talk about? Who is my audience going to be? Who's going to support me in this endeavor? And I was like, those principles literally do translate to every other industry, no matter what it is you want to do. Those principles definitely carry over. So, but when it comes to resilience, going back to not accomplishing it is not an option. It's not an option. You just have to keep moving forward. And I always use the GPS theory, right? You have your starting point, you have your destination. It doesn't matter what happens along the way. If your road is closed, it's going to reroute you. If you miss a turn, it's going to reroute you. So you always circle back to what the vision is. And on the days where I don't get a lot of sleep, because sometimes, beggars can be choosers. If I get an international speaking gig and they need me at like 11 p.m. for their morning show, then that's what you have to do, because my eye is on the bigger prize. And you used the word earlier, impact. That's why I wrote my book. That's why I'm going to write a second book. I've done 347 podcast episodes. I've guested on well over 100 platforms. I'm in online publications. And why? Because those things can survive my lifetime.
Yeah. And they keep giving back. I mean, the advice and the power of stories, the power of your tongue in speaking these positive things. And it's something that gives back, and you never know who it's going to reach that really needs to hear it. That's the beautiful thing. And I mean, one reason that I'm really huge on people sharing their stories and sharing their experiences is that you never know who you're going to resonate with and who's going to be impacted from that. So it's beautiful when you, like what you just said, you sacrifice things for the bigger purpose or the greater good. And that is fulfilling, where a lot of times people's like, oh, I don't want to sacrifice sleep, or I don't want to sacrifice relaxation or a diet. That's a big thing. A lot of people don't want to sacrifice what they eat, but it's like, what is the alternative? That you're getting something right now that's worth having that is going to fade in it's just going to evaporate, or are you going to invest in something that's going to keep giving back? So I think that's the question I think that we have to ask a lot of times in ourselves. At least that's a question I have to ask myself on a semi-regular basis. But resilience is it's a hard thing. I feel like building resilience or going into something and saying, I'm going to build this resilience, I almost feel like it's the beauty and resilience is the person you become in the process of building that.
Yes, like one thing I say all the time is you can't stay the same and change. You can't. Like if you're stuck in the rut, and if you want to get out of that rut, you can't do the same habits that you're currently doing, because it got you where you are. Perfect example. This kid I used to work with, this man I used to work with, he inboxes me. This was maybe 10 years ago. He's like, Rob, I want to lose like 10 to 15 pounds. I don't want to change my diet, and I don't want to exercise. Dude. Like seriously? And same thing with my track team. I tell them, I was like, guys, you try an event. Like when you try an event for the first time, you are not going to be good at it. You are not going to. It's like if you throw the discus and you don't get the spin down right. It's like, cause you threw it once. Like you have to put the time in. You have to be committed to it. Cause even here in the gym, I tell people, do you just have an idea that you want to get fit, or did you finally hit your rock bottom and you're ready? Because if this is just an idea, I'm not the guy for you. I tell people that up front in the consultation. I say, but you tell me what your goal is and you're committed to getting there. I don't want to hear, well, I showed up, didn't I? No, that doesn't fly here. It's like we are results oriented, and I don't just want 100 people in here and make a ton of money. Like I want people that come in here to transform. I'm going to transform, and I work on the mental piece a lot too, because that's just as big as the physical piece. And it's like, same thing with the track kids. The very first meeting we had before the season started, I told the kids up front, this will be hard. I said, if you are not committed to hard work, leave now. It's like you set the tone right up front. And like I said, not everybody responds to that style. Cool. I'm all about authenticity. I was told by a speaker coach once, you're not going to be taken seriously as a speaker if you show up in a tank top. Right. And I said, I'm an athlete and a fitness coach. This is what I wear. I was like, if I show up in a shirt and tie, that's not me anymore. Maybe when I managed restaurants, because I was forced to, but that's not me. This is who I am. I said, so if you want to hear my message, you're getting me in my form.
Yeah. And there's so many people that have been successful in building a brand, and their brand is that. You look at someone like Andy Elliott. I don't know if you know who he is. He's branded himself on wearing like shorter shorts. I mean, it's just, but he's a speaker and a sales coach, and he gets on stage in these shorts, and It's just, again, that goes back to the limitations that people put on you. Like, you can't do this. No, who says I can't? Who says I can't do this? I'm authentic. I love that you brought that up about being authentic, because it's true. And you never know who, again, you never know who you're going to impact by showing up in a tank top. You show up in a business suit, you are going to miss some of the people that you are divinely aligned with, because you show up in a business suit, when if you had leaned into authenticity, you would have been able to impact these people. So
yes, let me piggyback on that. So I went to a networking event at the Northern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce, and I walked in. It was a little cooler then. So I had my hoodie on, and you walk in the room, everybody's got suits on, right, except me. You could cut the judgment with a knife, right? At the end of that meeting, everybody flocked to me for my business card. And that's what authenticity brings. It's like all those people in there. To your point, I was the apple in the sea of oranges, because everyone else just kind of looked the same. But I came with a different edge, with a different point of view, and with a different story to tell. Like, everyone got up there and just spoke about their business, and what I went through each one of them. I was like, when you were done speaking, I didn't even know what you did, because it's like you were too busy trying to use buzzwords and all this other stuff and trying to sound super intelligent that I have no idea what you do. It's like, because you're trying to say the right thing. Whereas, like, when I show up, I say what needs to be said. It's like, I don't look to insult anyone or offend anyone, but it's like, you're like this because you're in your own way. Yes, maybe you went through stuff, but you're allowing it to continue to hurt you. It's like I've been through divorce. I watched my father pass away. I literally lost everything and was homeless for 6 days, bouncing in and out of hotels. I dealt with my dad grabbing me by the throat and throwing me down the stairs as a teenager. Like, you get through things. When you look at the bigger picture, is my dad was amazing. He did have some off moments. That doesn't erase all of the amazing things that he did. The amazing things that he left behind. And that's what people forget when you're dealing with something, pain, PTSD, trauma, any of that stuff, is people get stuck on the what happened. They forget that you're still here. Whatever you went through did not break you. So that's the power in the story. So yes, I watched my father his last breath. I will never, ever unsee that moment. Never. But if I stay there, then I'm never going to get past it. So the true story starts from when we walked out of that room. That's where the story begins. It doesn't really begin with his passing. It begins our steps to getting through it. And I'll give you a quick example. Me, when my dad was 70, right, he was 79 when he passed. When he was 70, we were having a family reunion, and I said, why don't we do a living eulogy? And first, everyone's like, huh? I'm like, why do we have to wait till he dies for us to tell him how we feel about him? So then they were like, that's actually not a bad idea. So like we had a cake made, and everyone came to the microphone, and we told them how we feel about it, right? It was a great idea. And so from that moment forward, I was mentally preparing for his passing, because death's coming for all of us, right? Nobody's getting through it. So death is a natural part of life. And so I just started mentally preparing, because most of the men in my family, that they pass away somewhere between like 75 and 82. So I knew he's got a lot less than he does ahead of him. So I started mentally preparing. My brother, on the other hand, well, to be fair, I also lived closer. Like, I was only 35 minutes away. So I saw them a lot. And when they needed help, I could show up and be there to help. So my brother lives in New Jersey. So he got hit by the regret bug. Like, I should have called more. I should have visited more. I should have done all of this more. And then he went into that denial. So he kind of went down. It's like he wasn't in like a dangerous place, just in a mentally, he just went into like a deep depression. Whereas I went to gratitude. I was 45 when he passed. I'm 50 now. So I was 45. And so I had this man for 45 years. And I interviewed people on my show who never knew their father, or their fathers abandoned them, or their fathers abused them. Like I said, Dad had some bad moments, but I definitely wouldn't label him as abusive. But like, he was a Vietnam vet, and he suffered from PTSD. So I want to just share this part too quick, because I think it ties into the theme of your show. And so that PTSD, we never knew what it was until just before he passed. Cause I took him to the VA to apply for survivor's benefits for my mom. Cause we kind of knew he was heading that direction. He had stage 4 heart failure. And so the VA woman comes in, and now I know, like, doctors, surgeons, fighters, police fighters, like, they all kind of have to be numb to certain things because they deal with it on a daily basis. So the woman comes in, plops down. It's like, so what have you been through? Nonchalant, like. And so Dad, at first, he was like, I can't do this today. He's like, I can't do this today. I was like, oh, Dad, just breathe for a second. We're here now. We're here now. So why hold on to it even longer? And then he put his head down. And my dad, he was like a manly man. He was like your man's man, like alpha dog. He was definitely the patriarch of the family. And that's just who he was. But he drops his head, like his shoulders are kind of shrugged, and I see tears hitting the table. Only time I've ever seen this man cry is at funerals. And so tears start hitting the table. Then he picks his head up, and he told me the worst story that I will not share here. And the sad part is that he held that for 60 years. 60 years. It was something that he and his team were ordered to do in Vietnam. But he held that in for so long. And one of the themes of my show is that your true power lies in your story. You know, like if he would have sought help, if he would have let that story out, and then you use that story to help other people, and then maybe some of the things, like I said, he didn't do anything majorly bad, but maybe some of the things that he did, maybe would have never happened because he was holding on to that horrible moment. And like I mean, I know we didn't get to the takeaways section yet, but that's one of the biggest ones that I want people to take away from that, is that your story, what you went through, it doesn't have to continue to hurt. Like, you can get to the other side if you seek help and share it.
And that's so powerful. And that's something that I'm learning more and more as I do this podcast and talk to different people and different experts in whatever they're experts in, whatever their field is. But one of the things that I have really seen and experienced, even like as I've done some of this in my own life, is this thing of trauma that can get stuck. And let me first say this, that trauma is one of these things where one thing could happen to me and the exact same thing could happen to you. And I could process that as traumatic, and you could process that as, it was bad, but I moved past it. So different people process things differently. So it doesn't really matter. You know, it matters, but I'm saying the thing is not the focus point. The focus point is whatever that thing is that you've experienced that is traumatic. You have to be able to let that, you have to be able to feel it, first of all. You can't bury it. Letting it go. This irritates me sometimes when people are like, oh, you just need to let things go. You can't just let it go. You've experienced something that has been deeply traumatic. You have to process through that. But then once it's processed, you do have to be able to sit and feel it and let it, and then figure out how to let it go, whatever that looks like. Whatever modality, whatever breathing techniques, whatever, supplementation or whatever you have to do, you have to figure out. That's my goal here with this podcast, Through the Trauma. I'm like, people need to, it's not fair that people have to live under that for their whole life. And hearing your story, it affects me greatly, just hearing that your dad, I mean, it's really sad that he carried that. And I think so many people in the military do. They have things that, the characteristics that come from that trauma, like the shame and the pain and the grief and the regret and all of those things, that's what you carry with you. And if you can't figure out how to a way to let that go, it's going to bury itself in your body, and it's going to manifest. It's going to come out in sickness. It's going to come out in triggers. It's going to come out some way. It's going to come out, and it's not going to be healthy unless you decide to release it. Or you're going to carry it your whole life like your dad did, which is so heartbreaking.
Yeah, for real. Like, I'm surprised I held it together during that, because that was such a tough moment to sit through. But how I reframe the let it go is, I tell people, like, you have to release. Like, what is that outlet? Like, I was working on something. I was taking a course because for coaching, like, you have to take a series of courses. So I was working on this one course, like an hour and a half. And I thought it auto-saved. So, like, I just closed my laptop. But so I come back to it, it had not. saved. Like,
Frustrating.
so I was furious for a second, but I was like, I just couple deep breaths. I went outside, I went for a short walk, maybe half mile or so, and just came back. I'm like, grand scheme of things, just really not that big. It's like, let's just go back inside, open it up, and get restarted. It's like I can't get the time back. I can't undo it. And so stop being mad about it. It happened. It was your own fault. It's like I'm the one that didn't double check to make sure it's saved. I just assumed it's saved. But it's like you have to find wherever the outlet is. Like, as you know, the gym is an outlet for a lot of people. Like sometimes I teach kickboxing. People are, they're so glad we're boxing today because they got stress going on in their life, and you use that as the outlet. Because to your point, if you just bury it, when it does surface, that's when bad stuff happens.
And, all of these things that we're talking about, this is something that I do want to kind of circle back around to, because I think it's important, and I think it's really good to kind of wrap up like everything that we've talked about up to this point is this idea of failure. Like you had spoke earlier about, your kids will come in and they'll do something and they're not at their best. So they feel like that's failure, or maybe they don't even make a team, or, whatever. There's that kind of failure where it's like, I did my best, but I didn't succeed at the thing I wanted. And then there's the failure of like, you make a choice. You make a choice to quit. So these are the people that like are fitness people and then they come in, they want to lose weight and they're like, oh, this is much harder than I thought. I'm just going to quit. So that's failure. But how do you either pick one of those or talk about both of them, or just in general, how do you encourage people to overcome that failure and not to let that be the end result?
All right, so I'm going to answer it in two ways, because I have my direct approach and then I have my more empathetic approach. There was this woman, again, she comes into the gym. This is her very first class. And so we get to one of the stations and I said, we get the squats, and she's like very snottily. She's like, I can't squat. And I was like, why can't you squat? And she's like, because I had ankle surgery and I have pins in my ankle. I said, have you tried to squat? And she's like, well, no, they told me not to squat. I said, well, let's try it. And so we come over, I give her the TRX for balance. I said, just come down. And she ended up doing 20 squats. And then I said, okay, so from this day forward, you can do squats, right? And she's like, yes. I said, and then I gave it a quick overview of my knee story. I said, yeah, I was told I'd never run a jump again by a doctor, somebody who went to school for 12 years, right? I said, so, and then to circle around to finish her story, well, not finish her story, but I sent them out to a run, like around the building. And so she comes back around to me and she's got tears in her eyes. She's like, that's the first time I've run without stopping. I was like, see, I said, because you put these limitations on yourself. And so the other approach, so with her, I was just like straight, boom, let's go. The other approach is, again, going back to say the athletes just starting an event. I said, you cannot judge yourself against people who have been doing the event for years. I said, so like I have this one girl, she's a freshman, she's doing a triple jump and she can't make it into the pit yet. But I told her, I said, you've been doing this since last week. You have to give yourself time to learn the mechanics. You got to give your muscles time to adapt to that level of impact. I said, if by the end of the season, you still can't get in the pit, then maybe this isn't for you. But for now, we'll move your starting board up a little. And so you can get used to landing in the sand. And then as you progress, we'll back it up until you can get it from the 24-foot board. So I don't frame it as you failed. I'm like, hey, today wasn't your day. Okay, come back to practice tomorrow. We're going to regroup. That it took me 4 years to break that school record. So were the first 3 years a failure because I didn't break it? No, it was a process. I had to work at it. I had to study at it. I had to keep at it. And when the bad days come, you don't let that ruin the rest of your career. Michael Jordan didn't score 50 points every game. So that's what people have to tell themselves. They're like, okay, today just wasn't your day. It's that simple. Regroup and let's get it tomorrow.
Yeah, I know personally when I deal with failure in my own life, I think it's not failure unless you quit. I think quitting is pretty much that. You've made a choice at that point to put a stop at it. You're like, I'm not doing it anymore. But it's easier said than done. It's so much easier said than done. It's like, I'm not going to quit. But then you have those days where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Whatever it is. whatever.
Yeah, that is true. And even with me, like Sundays tend to be my lightest day. Like Monday through Friday, and now starting tomorrow, actually, I work at a restaurant that's only open on the weekends. So it's super busy buffet. So I work there on the week. So now on top of my regular workload, now I'm adding an additional 20 hours a week there. You figure it out, it's like you just figure it out every day. Every day is just a grind. But there are some days where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna close the computer. I'm gonna lay on my bed and I'm gonna watch TV. It's like that's not a failure. That's just taking a pause. Right? Sometimes it's okay to take a pause. It's okay to reset. And to back to what you said earlier, it's okay to feel what you feel, especially men. They're like, men aren't supposed to cry. I always say, then why do we have tear ducts? Right?
That's right.
It's like we can't breastfeed because we don't have milk ducts, right? We're not meant to breastfeed. But if we weren't meant to cry, why would we have tear ducts? Like that was societal conditioning from way back when, because we used to fight to the death and we used to hunt to eat. So that's But now that we have these conveniences and everything else, it's okay to show your emotions. Like if you get on stage and like if I tell my dad's story from start to finish, I cannot get through it without getting emotional. I can't. But that's okay. That's normal. Humans cry. It's okay.
Right.
And I want a lot of men to realize that, because I think it's 70% of suicides are men, because society tells you you can't express yourself, but you absolutely can and you should.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think there's a problem with that for sure. People I've talked to and people that focus mainly on men, I got to give a lot of props to those people because I think it's hard. It's hard to live in an interesting time right now anyway. It's hard on both men and women. I can't relate to a lot of, I can empathize for sure. Men have to go through, but I can't relate because I'm not a man. But I know that I do think there's problems with the societal norms or what society puts on these young boys growing up. I'm a mom of a young boy, so I know it's hard and they're faced with a lot of things. And then I think the biggest problem is being able to manage those emotions. Like I think we don't teach our kids enough of really how to manage emotions. So they grow up into these adults that will experience trauma because it's a part of life. They experience it on some level and they don't know how, they don't have the tools or the resources to process through those things. And I think the best way to do it is what you've brought up is talk about it, share your stories, bring it to the forefront, let, someone like yourself coming out and saying, hey, it's fine for men to cry. I've never heard anybody say that actually, that
Really?
Why do we have tear ducts? It's a compelling question, right? Why do you?
True. Yes. So true. Like, and I'm dealing with the aftermath of that. Cause like, as I said, my dad was a Marine with PTSD. He was very tough on us. I said he wasn't abusive, but he was tough. Like you didn't mess with him. So if he told you to do something, it better be done or there was hell to pay, So that's what I grew up with. So when I had my son, as he started getting older, you repeat the cycle. Like that's what I know. And now he's 26 and he's bringing up all this stuff from way back then. Cause again, it'd be like, why are you crying? Stop acting like a girl. And cause that's what we heard. And now the world has shifted. Because when I was younger, you could get beat in the middle of the supermarket and it's okay. You do that now. They're calling child protective services. People are Facebook Living you and all this other stuff. So the world has changed. So I look back now and it's like, wow, maybe I was too harsh. Because now he doesn't know how to control his emotions. And I'm trying to get him to see. I'm like, okay, I get it. I made mistakes. I'm sorry, but you can't stay in that place. So it's like, okay, so do you want to mess up the rest of your life? It's like, we've spoken about it. I've admitted to it. I've owned up to it. I've given you a hug. I told you I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what more I can do. It's like, now it's up to you. It's like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's up to you now if we can get past this, because a lot of it with him too, he uses it as a crutch. Like he definitely lacks accountability and things. So when things get stressful, it goes back to me not letting him cry and all this other stuff. I'm like, come on. It's like at some point you have to take the accountability. Like I mentioned earlier that I lost everything at one point. Like I was in an unfavorable position with a business partner to where I didn't get paid for a long time. And so after I lost my car, lost my house, and finally I was like, you know what? This dude's got no desire to pay me whatsoever. So I dropped the keys on the desk and I'm like, it's yours. And out I went into the abyss, into the unknown. And I was pissed at him. I wasn't able to get through it until I looked myself in the mirror and say, why did you let it go that far? Right? I can't blame him for me losing my car and my house. Why did I let it get that far? And then that's when I was able to start seeing the opportunities, because I always tell people, when you're on fire, you can't see the fire. If you can't see the fire, you can't put it out. So I was just so caught up by anger at what happened, and now I'm homeless with no car, and I was on fire. I couldn't see it. But then once the second I took accountability, I got a coaching job. The first gym that I walked into, so I'm in location 2. There's another location closer to my house, but I walked in there, I met the owner, we hit it off, and now I'm running his other location. And it just like everything, I restarted the podcast, started getting booked on other podcasts. Like once I like reminded myself what my vision was, then I started getting the opportunities. So I know people get there at their own pace, but at some point you have to make the decision, I'm done with this.
Yeah. And taking accountability is huge. It really is. And it's a hard lesson to learn. I mean, I'm in my 40s and it's taken me, until I don't even know that I had learned it in my 30s. I mean, it had really literally taken probably late 30s, early 40s for me to grasp that idea of taking accountability. I do think fitness and sports help.
Yes.
I was never an athlete in school. I didn't get into fitness until I was in college, and that's because I was tired of being skinny and, and lanky. I was not happy with my body, and so I started working out to look better. But I do think people like yourself who's making such an impact, not only in your motivational speaking and the people that you impact in, training them, but the kids. I have a big heart for kids and our youth, and I think that they're growing up in a really hard time. And I think the world just continues to get worse. And they're, with technology, all these things, we didn't have these things. I didn't have these things growing up, and
Yep.
we don't know how to navigate these things. I mean, I don't think as human beings, this is new terrain.
Yes.
It's like we need more people like yourself who's speaking out and encouraging, empowering, and setting them on a trajectory that's going to be successful. And I think sports does have the power to do that, especially when you have a good coach and someone that's speaking life into you.
See, and that's my clientele, like people who are former athletes who want to get back into shape. Like if somebody walked in and was like, I want to lose 100 pounds, I'd be like, I'm not the right guy for you. Like, I'll just be honest, I'm not the right guy for you, because I can't tap into that mindset. Like I was overweight once in my life and I lost 45 pounds. So that person I can speak to. But when you're over 100 pounds, like that's a different mindset, right? And I can't push those buttons, but a former athlete, I can speak right into their soul and then get that out of them. That's inner athlete. I can pull that back out of them. And so like those are the people that I target with that. Now, would I do a talk at, say, like a bariatric clinic? Absolutely. Absolutely, because I can help them get in the mindset to take the first steps. But I'm not the right fitness coach for you. I was like, but I can get you mentally ready, and understanding that is paramount. Like understanding what your lane is. And I think sometimes a lot of people, even a lot of trainers, they try to be everything to everyone, and that doesn't always work. It's like you want to find a sweet spot and be the expert in that sweet spot. And that's in any facet of life.
Yeah. And I think really what you're saying here is that it's not about the weight so much as it is about the mindset. Because I know that I've been super intrigued by people who have been obese, and then they determine, it's like they make up their mind, I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to lose this weight. And then they do it. And, yes, sometimes they will seek like surgical, or I'm not an advocate really for medicine to lose weight, because I think it's a Band-Aid, and there's still mindset issues that has to be corrected. But I've seen and known people over the years who have been like obese and then just make a decision. I'm done with this lifestyle. and they do everything to shift everything in their life. And it's those transformations are just amazing.
See, and those are two of the most powerful words that you just said. I'm done. Like I always say, the worst people to work with are content people, right?
So true.
Right? You have the super driven people that show up 4 to 5 days a week and they just get after it. Then you got the fed up people who are determined to turn their life around. There's those people in the middle that are all willy-nilly about it and don't care. They don't push themselves. They're checking their phone during the set. It's like, why are you even here?
That's right.
You know, it's like, why are you even here? Go to Planet Fitness and do that. It's like, why are you going to pay our prices if you're not gonna fully take advantage of what we offer here?
That's right.
And so I always tell people the best people are the ones who are fed up. It's like you're tired of it. You're ready to make that change. And like my sister is one. She had weight loss surgery, but there's like she lost 100 pounds twice, but then she put her right back on every single time. So like she couldn't do it without, because she just wasn't mentally strong enough. Like she had like a legit food addiction. You know what I mean? So, but I'm the same. I try to encourage people to do it on their own. You know, but if you absolutely can, I mean, do what you got to do. But everyone can do it if the will is there.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And it's like that with every, I mean, it, not just food and weight, but everyone struggles with their own addictions. It's like food and alcohol and things like that. You can see those things a lot of times, like drug addictions, things like that. You can see those. But the person who looks like they got everything together, they probably struggle with addiction in something. I struggle with sugar addiction. I'm not going to lie. I love sugar. It's one of the worst things you can eat, I think, that, but I do it in moderation, but I do tend to go overboard when I do eat it as well. So that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Hey, I like my wine with dinner. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You know, I can have worse habits.
That's right. I mean, we all have those things. And the reason I really even bring that up is that there should be no shame in whatever, as human beings, we're going to struggle through things, right? It's life. We're going to have things that we're going to have to work through. But at the end of the day, what you're preaching is the mindset and being resilient and making a determination in your mind, like making a choice.
Yes.
And there's where the power lies,
Absolutely. Yeah. So just about my book real quick. So people always ask me, like, how do you answer any question? Like, how do you? So I wrote the book as a how-to guide. Like, it's not really just like about me and my stories. I mean, like I sprinkle some in there, but then there's a worksheet. And there's 13 worksheets within those 15 chapters. Like chapter 1 is there's nothing wrong with you. Because I always hear, what's wrong with me? So chapter 1 is there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm not going to go through all 13, but there's one on prioritizing yourself. There's one on assessing your inner circle. And it's prioritizing yourself without the guilt. And, how do you cast a vision and so on and so forth. And these are things that I've lived through, right? I'm not knocking education, but like I didn't learn this stuff in the book. Ironically, I want people to learn this stuff from my book. But these are things I actually went through. It's like, how did I overcome the knee injury? It's like, I gave you the 5-minute version here. But there was an entire process that I went through to make that full recovery. Prioritizing yourself, having 5 kids. Like, how do you prioritize yourself when you have 5 kids? It's like, I want to give them the example that you can do the things that make you happy. It's like so many people put themselves on the back burner, and on Instagram, they're all happy-go-lucky, but in real life, they're dying inside. Like they're not living in their purpose or in their power. So the book is a how-to guide of how to get yourself there, how to master your inner stories. People, if they're in leadership, they're going to connect better with their clients, customers, and staff. If as a couple, well, I'm single, but as a couple, you're going to become better communicators because you're going to know how to better tell your story versus just talking at someone. Again, going back to people always talk about the what, not the how. How did it not break you? That's the story. And this book is going to tell you how to piece all that together. And then from there, if people ever had aspirations of starting their own podcast or becoming a blogger, if you want to write your own book, if you want to try to get featured in the media, there's a whole how-to guide of how to make that happen. And it comes with because I have a lot of podcast friends. So it comes with guaranteed podcast bookings. So if people want to do that, I could easily turn that book into a masterclass and charge $10,000, easily. But the book is $20 because I want to help anybody who wants it. And sometimes Amazon discounts it, so it might even be less. Who knows? But it's only $20. You get a guide that can transform every facet of your life.
I love it. It's so needed too these days, like that kind of practical advice that really we should be taught more in school,
Yes.
but we're not.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's super powerful. And the book is Shut Up and Grind by
Yes.
Robert Foster. So definitely check that out. And I'll put links to that in the show notes as well so people can get right to it.
Thank you.
And Robert, I know like your time is getting low here. You got to go, but
Yes.
tell us if you had something that you wanted to just leave our audience with, kind of wrapped up. What would you say to them?
You are a lot more than you think you are. You have somebody inside of you that's waiting to surface. If you're in a career or some type of job that's not fulfilling you, the time is now to make the shift, right? Nobody's promised tomorrow. Like you want to put things off, and then you're going to be 80 years old living with regret. Make the leap. Just get started. It doesn't have to be perfect. My first podcast episode was a train wreck, because I wasn't used to interviewing people. Now I can pick apart anybody's story, but I have 347 episodes under my belt now. So it takes time. So whatever that thing is, and it's already in your subconscious mind, you might even already be doing it and don't even realize that you can change your life with it. So just get started, and then you can always improve. Just like when I opened up my gym, we didn't have all the bells, not this one. I had a standalone one prior to COVID. I was like, we didn't start with all the bells and whistles. We only had a handful of kettlebells. We had some dumbbells. We had some barbells. And then as we grew, we upgraded. And people like to see upgrades. The worst thing is to go $100,000 in debt and you have no clients.
That's right.
So just get started. Like when I had my book printed, the cover wasn't the way I thought it was gonna look. So I redesigned the cover, so it's like you can always make things better. So just get started.
I love that. Great advice. And I concur with that as well. So Robert, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for all that you're doing and just for your heart. I can hear it all through our conversation. You have a big heart that really wants to give back and make impact, and that shows. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us today.
My pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
Hey there, friend. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this time here with us on Through the Trauma podcast. Your presence means more than you know. If this episode has spoke to you or gave you hope or made you feel just a little bit less alone, then I would love it if you would take a second, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who truly needs to hear it. Every share, every comment, every listen, it all helps our message get out and reach those who truly need it the most. Healing happens inside of a community, and together we are breaking the silence and creating space for transformation. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You are not alone.